All right, so welcome to part 3 of the beginner level of email automation in Airtable.
Email automation in Airtable, beginner level, part 3. In this part, you'll learn how to set up time-based triggers, understand how time zones affect scheduled automations, find records dynamically, loop through results using repeating groups, send emails to distribution lists instead of individuals, and pull in live data from multiple tables for report-style emails.
So up until this point, everything that we've done has been triggered manually, either using checkboxes or a single select field. So in this section, we're going to switch gears, and we're going to look at how to automate emails on a schedule. For example, sending a recurring report without having to click anything at all. You can have these emails sent based off any sort of trigger that you can think of. It can be based on a condition, like start date is today or start date is tomorrow. If you're doing some sort of like report that you want to send out on a Friday to different departments and the content changes depending on their department, that would look something like this. Let's just say like weekly report something like that, and then add the trigger. So let's do it every Friday. So let's go to add a scheduled time, interval type. We can do days. So we can say every 7 days at, let's send it at like 11 a.m., right? So, definitely pay attention to this. So dates and times are shown in your local time zone GMT. Learn more. So if you go and read about this. For time-based options, you'll see the configuration in your local time zone according to the settings of the device you're using. The trigger will fire simultaneously for collaborators in different time zones. So for example, if you're on the West Coast of the US, this trigger will fire for you at 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. on weekdays for a collaborator in the UK. So when you're leveraging this sort of in automation scheduling, you have to keep in mind that that's going to be in your local time zone, right? So if I'm scheduling this for 11 a.m., I'm over in Ireland, that's going to be pretty early for people who I work with over in the States. So it's, it might not be a problem because you can just kind of consider those things when you schedule, but I solved this in the next tutorial in the intermediate section. Let's just proceed with this. So we're going to test the trigger. So that's been tested. So let's go on to add advanced logic or action. So now what we can do is we can find records. For example, we can find all the records in the departments table. So we could just say where name, let's look at the departments table real quick. So yeah, the name is not empty, for example. So test action. So that should return all of the departments, which it does. So people, operations, IT, engineering, product, marketing. And then let's say that every department has its own distribution list, like in Google Workspace, Google Groups. So we can create that real quick. So let's call it distro department distro list. So this can be engineering at example.com, people at example.com. Fill all these in real quick. Ops at example, marketing at example, product, sales, and IT. So now that we have all those defined in the database, when I go back over and I find those records, test that one more time. Now I can see the department distro list here, right? Then if I continue on and add advanced logic or action, I can select repeating group, okay? And I can select the output list from the find records step. So I'm going to use that as the input list for this repeating group. And then I'm going to add an action. So I'm going to go to Gmail, send Gmail. So this is one way to do it, right? And then in the 2, I'll select the distro. Subject, we could say something like the name of the department, weekly report, and then hi all. Here is the weekly report data. And then you can pull that in, right? So let's say you're doing your project management in Airtable and you have a tasks table with each record being a task along with a status of either to do or complete, a name, someone who it's assigned to, description, a project that it's tagged to, a due date, and then I've also looked up the department of the person who the task is assigned to. And we can use that in our automation to basically look up all the tasks that are relevant, that are associated with the department that we're currently in the loop, so that we can include those tasks in a table for the weekly report. So before we reach the send an email step, we want to add a find records step. And the table that we're going to be searching in is tasks. And we're going to find the records based on a condition. And that condition is going to be where the department lookup that we created contains, and we're going to make this dynamic, and we're going to select the current item, and we're going to select the name of that current item, which is the name of the department. And then when we test the action, we should see a list of all of the tasks that belong to the department that we're currently on in the loop. So in this case, we're on the people department. So that looks good. All right, so we found those records. Now, when we go back to the Gmail sent an email step, and we say, here is the weekly report data, we can now add that data by clicking on that find records step that we just created, and insert all records as a grid. And then it allows you to select the fields that you want to include. So I'm going to include the task name, the status of that task, who it's assigned to, the description, the project that it's tagged to, and the due date. So let's insert those. And then I'm going to go ahead and generate a preview. And look at that. So we're currently running the report to the people distro list. So this is the people weekly report. Hi all, here's the weekly report. And you can see a beautiful table that has all the data that we just selected. So the status, the task name, who it's assigned to, description, projects, and the due date. So this is a great way to send reports to departments with data that's relevant to them.